Nintendo. Back in the news. Nintendo is suing creators behind the Switch emulator Yuzu, which before this story, I wasn't too familiar with Yuzu, but I've done a little bit of research into them and see that they can emulate just about everything from the Super NES to the Wii U to the Game Boy Advance. It's a pretty capable Nintendo emulator. But that's not the reason, that's not the sole reason why Nintendo is suing this emulator. There's some pretty daunting things in here. Nintendo has officially and publicly filed a lawsuit against the creators behind Yuzu on the 26th of February, according to Steven Totilo on Twitter. He says Nintendo wants this emulator shut down immediately alongside payment. This is where it gets a little bit different. They want payment for damages, saying that Yuzu's technology illegally circumvents Nintendo's software encryption and facilitates piracy at a colossal scale. Strong words. See if it pans out. They mentioned the fact that Tears of the Kingdom was downloaded 1 million times prior to the game's official release and indicates proof. Because Yuzu's Patreon support doubled in that time, giving members access to this emulator. So they're going to use their Patreon as evidence in court. Wow. I got to say, that sounds like a reasonable case. I'm a fan of emulation, but that right there, I mean, Tears of the Kingdom, it's kind of a new game. I'm more of a fan of emulating old games that you can't access or play that you have to rebuy 20 times on the Nintendo eShop. You know, I'm all about. I like that emulation, especially if I bought the game 5 times. What makes this a whole lot worse is apparently Yuzu makers access Nintendo Switch games from a hacked handheld, deemed as a DMCA violation, and even made a new copy for themselves, which is also a major copyright violation. So they basically jailbroke their Switch. And this is what made, a lot of this emulation happen, which is, that's how emulation works. It usually comes in the form of hacking and breaking encryption, figuring out how to reverse engineer it, and reproducing it in sort of a controlled environment. It's crazy. But the author of this article over on Retro Dodo says something that I kind of agree with. He says, I've been using emulators for many, many years, and I'll be honest and say that it doesn't feel right to be emulating current generation games that are available to purchase, and that not buying them and emulating them instead stops the creative team from benefiting from their work. Absolutely 100% agree with that. I've never been a fan of, you can call it emulating current generation, but it's basically piracy. It's basically just pirating a game. Like if Tears of the Kingdom is coming out and you go download a copy that works, that's piracy. Never been a fan of that. But if I want to play Super Mario Brothers, that I bought twice, 2 physical copies, by the way. And I bought a copy on the Wii, a virtual copy. I bought a virtual copy on the Wii U. I bought a copy on the Switch. Well, through their Nintendo Online thing. So I'm paying their online fee. So that's 5 purchases of one game. I want to be able to emulate that. So that's where I stand on emulation. If I especially if I bought it more than, one time to me is enough. Buying the game one time is enough. But having to repurchase it every time a new system comes out because the previous one is not compatible with the current one, to me is kind of a bad consumer practice. So I want to be able to emulate Super Mario Brothers. And I do emulate Super Mario Brothers. And I feel 0 bit of guilt. No guilt at all, because I purchased the game 5 times. Literally 5 times. But current generation games, that's where I draw the line. That's pretty much piracy. I don't do that. And I think that's what Yuzu was doing here. They were crossing some lines. And it was kind of hilarious here that, and I saw this, I couldn't believe it, that Valve, in their promotional material, had the Yuzu emulator on the Steam Deck. I thought that was hilarious. I was like, oh no, Valve, they might get subpoenaed. But check it out over on RetroDodo.com. They got the details. Nintendo is breaking out the big guns. The lawyers are firing up. People thought Nintendo was sleeping on the job. Nintendo and Pokemon Company when Pal World came out. People thought they were sleeping. Nintendo wasn't sleeping. They were like, let us cook. We got to take care of Yuzu. We're getting payment. We're getting paid over here. Retro Dodo has the details. Nintendo suing Yuzu for damages in the form of money. This is going to be interesting to watch. We're going to be watching this one very closely. Check it out. Get the details over there.